What is going on, brothers and sisters? Jeff back here with more Project Zailas. Now, as you know, we're going to be having the bumper and the wing painted very soon, just in a few days here. So I'm super excited about that. But before we can take it to paint, we've got to do a little bit of work. If you watched my fitting video for my bumper, you'll remember that I had mentioned there was a couple of things that I needed to fix on this bumper before I had to send it into paint. A couple of things that I'm going to need to use body filler for. Not a lot at all, there's only just a couple of things. One little chip on one side of it, and then this little gap that's over here. Not much more other than that, but then after it's body filled and all that's taken care of, I need to prep this thing with paint. I need to get rid of all the mold release that's still in it, backside and front side, get it all scrubbed down with a Scotch-Brite pad, get the SEM plastic prep coated on here and get it all wiped off, and just get it ready to go so that when I take it to the paint shop, it's already set to go for them. They can just throw the primer on there, do the two-stage paint, and it'll be good to go. I'm going to do the same exact thing on the wing, and the wing also needs a little bit of attention with the body filler. There's a couple of little scratches on one side that just came that way out of the packaging, but other than that, the wing is in pretty decent shape. All I need to do is just fill those little bits, and then I'll do the same exact prepping procedure on the wing. Plastic prep, Scotch-Brite pad. I'll show you guys what all that looks like. So let's get started. So I'm going to show you in specific the areas that we're going to be taking care of. Firstly, on the bumper, this little chipped spot right there. This area right here in the corner. Little chunk missing out of the plastic right there. We're going to be taking care of that. Just going to throw a little bit of body filler and then just sand that. That's going to be super easy, no problem. And the other spot, as I'd mentioned on the bumper, is going to be this little bit of inconsistency right here, where this line is just sunk in a little bit too much right there. It actually needs to come more vertically down from the tip here, and then just fill in probably just 1/8 of an inch worth of filler that we need to add just right there. I'll show you on this side. So you can see how this side looks much more uniform. How there's about 1/4 of an inch right here from the edge here. You can see how this is really nice and uniform, and then on this side you can see how that's missing. There's less than 1/4 of an inch here, and then it comes inside too much. So I'm just going to add filler to about 1/4 of an inch, and then just fill in that little bitty gap right there, and then just sand that down. Also super easy. Now for the Rocket Bunny wing, the only thing that we need to address on the Rocket Bunny wing is on this side right here, and that is these scuffs right here. Now it came like this right out of the packaging. I didn't drag it on the ground or do anything like that. That's the way it came. And some of these gouges are fairly deep. Like, these are pretty significant. I'm not sure how that happened, but it happened. So I'm gonna just be adding filler right there and just sanding that up. No problem, easy breezy. And that's gonna be it. So just 3 areas to repair. And then once all that is filled and sanded, we'll get started with the prepping process. And of course, for doing our filling, we're gonna be using Bondo. This is pretty much your go-to body filling stuff. You can get this anywhere, Walmart, AutoZone if you're in the States, Harbor Freight, anywhere. It's very common stuff. You can get it anywhere you go. But it works great. You know, it works for so many different applications. Works on almost any type of material, any type of surface. It will work great on. Good Lord, I need to clean this desk. God, it's been so busy. Look at this. Jeez. So really simple to use. Bondo is a resin, so it's a 2-part procedure. You got the filler itself, and then you got the MECP hardener that you add to the filler in order to start the reaction and get it to cure. Once you get it on there and smooth it on while it's still in a pliable state, once it hardens, you can sand it, definitely sandable, and it becomes very hard and rigid. So it works great as a filler, especially great for car projects and stuff like that. It paints really well too, so that's great. You know, you don't have to worry about having to add anything else to it in order to get it to accept paint. It takes paint really well. So if you're watching this channel, you more than likely already know how to use Bondo. You probably got some of your own, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on how to use it. I'm just going to mix some up here. You can see I've been doing a lot of mixing for my side skirts and stuff like that already, but this tool right here is really all you need. This is a little rubber spatula. This helps so much for smoothing. Once you get it all mixed up really well, smooth it on there. Trial and error with this stuff. I mean, I have had to use this stuff so much that I've gone from making complete messes all the time with it to now getting pretty proficient with it. So I'm going to mix a little bit up and then we'll get started on all that. Alright, so if you could see that, hopefully you could see that, we got all three areas applied with the same batch, which is really nice. You got to move quick with this stuff. You only have about 3 minutes of pot life with the Bondo because it does set up really quick. Fortunately, I was able to just get all 3 spots on, no problem. So we are going to go ahead and let that cure at this point. Then we're going to sand it down to the exact shape that we want. Again, Bondo is extremely sandable, so you can sand it into any shape that you want, which is great. You got to just make sure that you're filling all the gaps, all the areas that you want to fill. Make sure you have a sufficient amount of filler on or in those areas before you let it cure, because if you don't have all those areas filled, then you're going to need to go back in and add more. So make sure you got them all filled. Even if it's a little too much filler, don't worry about it. You can always sand it back down. It's like I said, it's always a trial and error thing with this stuff. As you get more used to using it, you're going to be able to know exactly how much you need just to fill exactly the amount of space that you need to fill with it. And sometimes you end up using a little too much. Sometimes you go, shit, I didn't mix up enough, and you don't have enough, and you got to go back and mix up another batch, which is cool. It sticks to itself really easily. So if you do need to go mix up another batch, no problem. Mix some more up and it'll apply, no problem. It'll stick to itself. So we got all 3 of the areas all curing at this point. Does not take long, about 15 minutes, and this stuff will be sandable, 15-20 minutes. So I'm going to come back to this in about 20 minutes, sand it down to the exact shapes that I want, and then we'll start our paint prep procedures. Another thing to note too is I was wearing a respirator. This is a resin, like I said, so wear a respirator, something that's going to protect your lungs from these fumes. It gets pretty heavy for sure, especially if you haven't used it in a while and you crack the top off. Those fumes are just going to come screaming up your nostrils, so put a respirator on. Safety first, you know what I'm talking about. Alright, so we're actually at the next evening here. I came out and sanded down the body filler that we had put on the bumper and the wing, and everything looked really good. But I saw a couple of more areas as I was going over and doing my sanding that I actually decided I wanted to go ahead and take care of. So I mixed up another batch and just went over a couple more areas. The wing was fine, the wing didn't need anything else, but just on the bumper, and I'll show you those areas in just a second. I just mixed up a new batch real quick, put it on, and then I just called it a night. I figured I'd just let it go ahead and cure overnight and then come back to it the next night. So here we are. So let me show you the extra little spots that I went over. Nothing serious, just a couple of other little spots. So first I'm going to show you the areas that we had originally did. And here's that little area right here that was too sunken in. We went ahead and just added that body filler, and it's all really nicely shaped now, perfectly shaped to the actual lines, and you can see it's just now extending, like I said, that 1/8 of an inch more past. So that's nice and hard, all sanded down, super smooth and nice and strong. So that's going to be a great fix right there. Right here is going to be one of the new spots. right here that we did. There was just a couple of little nicks here that I actually had not seen, and I just noticed it as I was doing my sanding right here. I looked over and happened to see a couple little nicks right there, so that was the first new little spot that I found. And then after I found that one, I decided to just go ahead and give another full look over the whole thing just to see if there's anything else. And there wasn't really anything too crazy, but right here I just found a couple little nicks that I figured while I had this batch mixed up, I just went ahead and tagged that little part right there as well. So I put some there, and then coming over to this side I did the same exact thing to right here. It needed a little bit, and then right here in this corner there was a little hole, not really a hole, but it was missing a little bit of the plastic right here. So I went ahead and filled that, sanded it down. It looks really nice and perfect now. And then the corner, the edge right here is perfect, nice and flush, nice fix. You can see where that body filler is just filling in that little chunk that was missing right there perfectly. Alright, so everything is cured and I did all my sanding. I'm very satisfied with that. As far as the Rocket Bunny wing goes, I'll show you what's this side. Here's the fill that we did on the Rocket Bunny wing. So you can see the body filler filling in those little nicks that were in there, real nice, little scratches and nicks. This is, dropping it now. This is all nice and flush, nice and smooth, so you can't feel those nicks in there at all. The body filler is filling those just perfectly. So that was sanded down. I used a real fine grit sandpaper. You don't want to go in real tough because you don't want to alter the actual shape of the piece. You just want to go in with a very fine sandpaper, so you're just sanding down the body filler, not the actual bumper or whatever you're fixing. Alright, so that part is done. We can now move on to the actual prep, to prep this for paint, both of these pieces here. So what I've already done is I already rinsed both of the pieces off. I took it out front and I hit them with the garden hose, just flushed them out with water. I got as much of that rubber residue, that mold residue that's sitting on the surface. I got all that off of there, and then I actually went over and used a car wash soap and I washed both of the pieces down, hand washed really well. Just a standard car wash. You don't need anything crazy or anything expensive or special. I went over and just washed it really well, front and back on both pieces. Okay, then I went back in, rinsed all the soap off, then went in and hand dried everything off. You can use air to dry it if you have air, if you have like a compressor or something, that's cool too. But it's now completely dry and I'm ready to go in with the plastic prep spray. And that is this stuff right here, the SEM plastic prep. And so I'm going to go ahead and go in with my shop towels and just do a nice scrubbing down of these with the plastic prep. You got to scrub it down really well, and then you got to wipe all of it off. You got to make sure there's nothing left, and getting into the little cracks and the crevices and everything like that, to really get all that mold release stuff that's in there, to get that to come out. This stuff will really extract it really well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Alright, so after having applied the plastic prep, we are now ready to go in for the next step, which is going to be to rinse the whole thing, both pieces down again with water, and then we're actually going to go in with some Ajax, which has, you use Ajax because it has a mild abrasive ingredient in it, and we're also going to use gray 3M Scotch-Brite pads. These are specifically designed for automotive use, so these are kind of about the equivalent of like an 800 grit sandpaper. We're going to go in with the water, give it a nice coating of water on both pieces, and then we're going to add Ajax to it, and then we're going to go over with our Scotch-Brite pads and scuff the whole thing, both pieces, really well. You want to make sure at this part that you get into every little crevice, every little nook and cranny, every little area that is going to be visible. You want to absolutely make sure that you get in there and scrub it really well. You want to make sure you're scuffing it up so that the paint will all adhere perfectly well and it won't start peeling at like a corner or anything like that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and spray them down with water, and then add some Ajax, and then start scuffing. Alright, so we got both the pieces now scrubbed down thoroughly with the water, the gray Scotch-Brite pad, and the Ajax. And so I made sure to get every little crease, every little body line, every little piece, and scrubbed it thoroughly. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and rinse this back off again with water, and then wipe it all dry and make sure it's all nice and dull. If there's any shiny spots, you want to go back in and scuff it up more. If everything looks dull, even all the little creases and everything like that, you should be good to go for your flex primer and all that, and the painting, which is what the body shop is going to do for me. So this is going to be the final step for me, rinsing it off, drying it, and just doing a check to make sure everything looks nice and dull and ready for paint. Alright, so we have just finished the Ajax procedure, and we went ahead and rinsed it all off with water again, and then dried everything off completely, and it's looking nice and dull and scuffed up. You can see that there's no really shiny spots. The wing as well, it's a nice and dull finish, nice and scuffed up, you can see, and that's a good indicator that you are ready for paint at this point. So again, I went in and just rinsed it off first of all, did the car wash over it, scrubbed it all down really good with the soap and water, then I dried all that completely, then went in with the SEM plastic prep over there, that stuff, and then wiped all that off completely. Then I rinsed it again, and I went in with the Ajax with the gray Scotch-Brite pad, scrubbed that all down really well, rinsed it off again, and then dried it again. So a pretty complicated procedure. It's not hard to do, it just takes a little while. And so at this point we are ready for paint on these two pieces, and I have been waiting long enough. I am very ready to get paint on these pieces and get them on the car. Super excited. They're going in 2 days from now for paint. Finally, I'm going to be able to put these on the car and show you guys. Alright, that's it for this one. If this helps you guys, give it a like, and be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Anytime you got a plastic bumper like this or a plastic piece, make sure you prep it properly. Don't just go spray painting it or whatever. You got to prep it properly or it's not going to work at all, because these pieces come out of a mold, and in order for them to come out of a mold, they got to be coated with a release agent, and the release agent does not get along with paint whatsoever. So make sure you properly prep it before either you paint it yourself or send it to a paint company. Alright, I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy. Peace.